Yo, what's up you guys? I am out here on the water testing out some new patterns that I've been trying to create recently, and it got me thinking, like, what would be the top 5 Euro nymphs I would pick if I could only pick 5 to fish, say, the rest of the summer? Like, what would I keep? What would I cut out? What would that actually look like, you know? If I was forced to pick 5, like, what would actually make the cut? So these are my top 5 nymphs that I would have in my box for the rest of the summer if I was forced to fish only 5. Okay, before I start this list, I'm just gonna let you guys know these are not in any particular order. These are just the 5 that I would pick, and I'll kind of go through and explain why these 5 were the ones that I would pick for this list. Okay, the first fly on that list would be the Shart, the Prince Nymph variation. I carry that in my box in a 12 and 14. Sometimes I'll tie it in a 16. It's an attractor fly. You're gonna hear me talk a lot about attractor flies. If I was only gonna fish 5 flies, I would probably cut out a lot of the imitative stuff and go more attractor style because they're more versatile in more situations. This would be my fly that I would carry in bigger sizes that could potentially imitate like a green drake nymph or a stonefly nymph. If you tie it big, it can do a pretty good job of imitating those. It's a great fly if you don't really know what's going on in the water and you need something just to kind of start off with, and there's nothing kind of happening on the surface and it's not totally obvious. It's a great starting point. That's fly number 1, the Shart, and I will throw a tying link up in the top so you guys can check that out if you want to see how to tie that fly. Okay, fly number 2 is another attractor pattern. No coincidence there. It is the hot tag Waltz worm, and I'll tie this in a few different ways, but if I had to choose one, it would be a CDC collar and pine squirrel dubbing with a hot tag on the end. That fly just absolutely can wreck fish certain times of the year, so I would have to have that one in my box. It's a great fly because it sinks a little bit slower than some of these other patterns that I have on this list, and so sometimes you'll be in a situation on the water where you need a fly that sinks a little bit faster because your other ones are sinking too quick. So this is a great option because of that slow sink rate. You can kind of tailor it to the water. The other reason I like this fly is that if I'm fishing a tandem rig where I have 2 nymphs on, I like those 2 nymphs to have contrast to each other's, right? So if I'm fishing a Waltz worm, I might throw on something like a Shart or a Pertagon style fly so it's light and dark, and I have 2 versions there. It's kind of giving the fish 2 completely different things to look at to kind of figure out what they're keen on. So that's fly number 2, the hot tag Waltz worm. Okay, before I carry on, I just want to let you guys know kind of how I made this list. In my mind, it was I needed something small that sinks fast. I needed a couple attractor versions, right? So that if I don't have the perfect pattern, I have something that's kind of close. I need something that's more imitative, right? So that's 4. So I've got 2 attractors, an imitative pattern, something smaller, and then I need a streamer pattern. So that leads me to the 3rd fly on this list, and that is the Eagan streamer, okay? This is not my pattern, this is a Lance Eagan pattern that absolutely kills. And I think that one thing is cool about this fly is that it's like 5 materials total: thread, bead, hook, tail, body, and you can crank these babies out. So if you want a fly, this is the epitome of a guide fly. So if you want a fly that you can fill your box with quickly, you don't have to stress about losing, and you don't have to worry about that all the time spent tying that fly, this is your fly. You know, and it works amazing. Like, it's hard to find a fly that is more complicated to tie that works better than this fly does, and it's super simple. So I like this fly the most. If I had to pick one, I would pick black. That's kind of my favorite color. Second would be olive. So black and olive would be the 2 that I would really want in my box. And you know, but you can do everything. You can do brown, white, you know, the sky's the limit on colors with this fly. You just change out the 2 materials, the tail and the body, and just keep cranking them out. I like the black with the pink bead. Pink and silver, those are the 2 bead colors that I would choose on this fly. But if I had to pick one, it would be black and pink, and that fly would be in my box. The other cool thing about this fly is that it could represent, you know, a leech. It's super attractory, right? It could be a leech, it could be a stonefly. In my local rivers, I think a lot of times when I'm fishing this nymph or this streamer on a Euro rod, I dead drifted. I think they eat it for a stonefly a lot of the time and not necessarily a leech or a bait fish. I think that's not necessarily the case when I'm fishing the olive color, but you know, it's just a great attractor. So give that one a look and tie some up and fill your box with it. Okay, fly number 4. This is the imitative pattern, and this is another one of Lance Eagan's pattern. It's the thread Frenchie. This fly, again, super quick to tie, super easy to tie. You can fill your box, and it sinks fast. So if you want a version that sinks fast, you go with the thread Frenchie. If you need something that sinks a little bit slower, You can tie just the regular Frenchie, which is more like a regular pheasant tail variation. They all work equally well, but if I had to pick one, I would go with the thread Frenchie because I think it just works in more situations than just a standard Frenchie. So that would be my imitator pattern. I like it in 14 to size 18 with a silver bead. Silver bead's kind of my go-to, but I will tie this in copper and pink as well. I'm sure you guys have heard me say that lots of times, but that would be fly number 4, the thread Frenchie. Okay, the 5th choice, and I'm calling this my wild card spot, would be a Glo-Brite Pertagon. And I tied this in a video a while back you guys can check out, but that would be my 5th spot. It's one of those flies that's hit or miss, right? It's an attractor, but it's like kind of an extreme version of an attractor where if the fish aren't on that specific color and something that flashy, they're not gonna eat it. So it's kind of hit or miss in the fact that like you can come down to the river, throw that fly on and just slam fish with it, or they won't touch it. So you can find out pretty quickly on that fly whether it's gonna work or not, but I like to have some wild cards in my box. And so fly number 5 would be the Glo-Brite Pertagon, probably in a green or a purple. And so that would be my 5th spot. The 5th spot is also where I would probably sub out in the winter. This is the summertime list, but as it's a wild card spot, in the winter I would probably swap that Pertagon for something like an egg or a mop or a worm, something like that, where you need flies that work a little bit better in off-color water. In the summer we're not always forced to deal with that. So fly number 5, the Glo-Brite Pertagon. Okay, those are my top 5 confidence flies for this particular summer. I'm gonna do a winter video later on this year and let you guys know what my top 5 Euro Nymphs would be for winter time. Let me know down in the comments what are some of your favorite confidence flies that you fish all the time. These are just mine, you know, they're in no particular order. They're flies that I have confidence in if I went to any place in the United States that they would still work and I would still be catching a lot of fish. Anyway, if you guys can like and subscribe, it helps out a lot, and I'll see you guys in the video next week. Catch fish.